Good morning, everybody. It's Kristina Dennis, the Transformational Self Empowerment Master. And I wanted to come in with a new transformational tip, still on the theme of journaling. I'm going to bring some more information about thoughts and different science in maybe tomorrow. But I was listening to another person who's vulnerable and willing to share. And a couple of things came in, and it was actually Sheryle Sanberg who wrote Lean In. It was one of her interviews about Plan B, which is the book that she wrote after the sudden death of her husband, who died at 47. And I guess I want to talk about 3 points and leave with a transferable tip that I thought was magnificent and just a nice way to phrase it. First of all, when her husband died, her rabbi told her to lean into the suck. And it was funny because obviously she was well known for her book, Lean In. And it struck me as she was talking about that because that was something that I heard a lot of, and I've even said, lean into the feelings. And, not seeing people going, I don't understand what that means. And I loved the explanation that she gave, so I want to share that because I obviously believe and have seen in many people outside of myself this work, that when you lean into a feeling, it will move through you quicker and you'll be able to resolve it and heal faster. Certainly than denying your feelings, which is incredibly painful. It's like trying to hold an 800-pound gorilla at the door sometimes, and it's just impossible and exhausts us unless we distract ourselves with chemicals or shopping or anything else. Anyway, I digress. So leaning into the feelings, leaning into the suck, the way she explained it, which I'm going to steal from this point forward. I'm giving her credit today, and then moving on, it'll just be part of how I explain it. Leaning into sadness without judgment, without being sad about being sad, without being angry about being angry, about being frustrated without being frustrated with yourself, allowing yourself unadulterated access to these feelings. Now, that's not to say your behavior follows them. It's just how we get them out. Not talking yourself out of grief, not talking yourself out of something that hurts, observing yourself and recognizing that this showed up for a reason. Even if it's a negative behavior pattern, there's a reason why it's showing up, and it's a warning, or it's a slow down sign that says, okay, right now, I need to feel this feeling, figure out the source, not judge myself for having it, and move forward. So I loved that. That was the first point I wanted to talk about. It's a transformational tip for sure. One that I've shared over and over again already, even on the videos that I put out. Hopefully you find these videos encouraging and you don't feel as alone, and perhaps move on to a place of more transparency in your life and healing. That is, of course, my goal. I said 3 points, right? So, okay. The second point was that she openly admitted that she had no idea what it would be like to be a single mother. And that struck me because it was such a beautiful admission on a world platform, on the platform of the world. I guess she's been featured on Time Magazine twice now. And she talked about how she had put a chapter in her book, and I read Lean In, and I remember being struck by one of the first comments about how when a working mom leaves her child at school and goes to work, she feels this overwhelming guilt because she's not going to be able to homeroom or not be able to do things that other mothers may do. And when a working father drops his kid off, he leaves feeling like a superhero because he did a little extra thing, and how off balance that is. And I remember reading that thinking, yeah, that's totally true. We really do, as working women, working mothers outside of the home, because obviously I think working in home is like the hardest thing I've done both, and it's harder to stay home, in my opinion. But working outside of the home and leaving our children or not being available to them is really, really hard. And so when she was talking about being a single mom, it reminded me of the days that I have been a single parent. Not alone, though, and just how we have to do a better job with that. And if somebody you know has become single, that respect and letting them know that they are not alone in this and that we are there for them. And all the other stuff that comes along with recognizing how hard it is to be a single mom. And so then the third thing, which is what I'm going to discuss about or give this full transformational tip on, was about joy journaling. And I loved this idea to give to somebody who hates journaling because I've said it, I think in the last 2 days, but she, framed it in another way, that if you could take at night, and some people call it gratitude journaling, I love joy journaling because it, to me, is a more initial emotion than necessarily gratitude. I mean, maybe one day I will be evolved enough that I feel really grateful, but generally I have to think about something about why I'm grateful about it. And, that gratitude is more of a in my head space, whereas joy and happiness can be a first emotion. And you can decide if that's right or wrong for you, but that's, I'm, talking off the top of, my head and how I feel about the journaling of joys. And her discipline for 5 months after her husband died was to sit down and journal for the first time in her life, and how that's morphed into looking for points of joy throughout her day. And when you do that, remember, we're changing the neurotransmitters, and neurons that fire together wire together. And so as you take that time to journal these moments of joy, and remember I had the 3 gratitudes. So here's, let's say you have 5 joys, things that gave you joy during your day. The next day, and first of all, you get the joy from remembering them. Then you train your brain to look for them so that the next day, when you're actually walking through your day, you can have more immediate joy and say, it can hit you. That's going to hit the journal tonight. That's going to make it to the funny papers because that made me, smile. That tickled me. I love that phrase, when I feel tickled. So looking for joy the next day is going to happen because that's just the way our brain works. That reticular activating system starts looking for things that are in common, and therefore more joy comes. That law of attraction just happens. And then I loved this, going back, let's say a year later, and saying and seeing what gave you joy, you'll have joy again, a third time. And I thought, wow, that's compound interest. That's emotional payoffs. And so I wanted to share that tip with people to say, not to add to the pile of this is what you need to do in order to have a spiritual life or to transform. But if you're struggling with, embracing some of the good points of your life, or even seeing them, that perhaps this is the exercise that gets you to start living your own life and unlocking that power inside of you that will transform your days. And it seemed like a very realistic, capable, actionable item that's very, very doable, because it could take all of 2 minutes to write it down. And I, as I'm talking, I'm thinking about what a great exercise to do with your children, even your teenage children who will roll their eyes, because it's going to sit in somewhere. And it's going to sink in a way that, perhaps the trauma work, which is releasing and letting go, it's like using our brain and the things that maybe are, sometimes hurt us. I hate that word hack because I like it, but I don't even like the fact that I like it, because hack seems like a shortcut. And I don't think shortcuts are really shortcuts. I think they're the long way around things. But this seems like a really easy way to to get in there and find some joy. So the joy journaling is the transformational tip today. And I hope all of you have a beautiful day and you take the time to look for some joyful things, and you don't judge yourself for the feelings that you have, that you lean into them, because that secondary feeling is what's going to get you, right? Remember I said you're not always in control of the first thought, but the second thought, you're not maybe always in control of the first feeling, but the second feeling, you're in control of. So don't judge yourself for having emotions or feelings or thoughts or judgments or perspectives about things, because those are all changeable anyway. And so important for us to be on our own side, and advocating for ourselves. So that's it today. I am going to probably talk a little more about thoughts again tomorrow, but I'll leave you with that. And thank you for bringing me joy with all the beautiful comments that I am getting outside of the YouTube world, and people who are seeing these videos. I really appreciate it. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. That gives me more allowance as I keep going on how to brand it and make it more mine as more subscribers come on. So if you like it, subscribe, or share it with somebody, because that's the goal. That's my ultimate goal, is to bring this to the world and make it accessible to all. All right, love you. Bye.